The ground trembled beneath Samuel Carter's boots as the great alien ships hovered above his golden wheat fields. The air shimmered with soft blue light, like morning fog made of energy. The chickens clucked nervously, the cows mooed in confusion, and Samuel stood frozen on his porch, watching the sky open. Beside him, the alien dragon soldier, Tarakan, stood tall and calm, his metallic wings folded neatly against his back. His golden eyes watched the sky with deep emotion, something between relief and fear. Samuel whispered, "Your people came for you, huh?" Tarkin nodded slowly. "Yes, my kin. They found—" "High signal," Samuel blinked. "Signal? You mean that little light you sent up last night?" Tarkin tilted his head. "Yes, beacon. It called home." Samuel rubbed the back of his neck. "Well, I sure hope they're friendly. I just fixed the roof last month." For a moment, Tarakan smiled, a strange, warm expression that looked almost human. "They not harm you. You help soldier. You friend." But even as Tarakan said that, Samuel noticed the ships lowering closer. Their engines hummed with a deep rhythm that made the air buzz. A soft beam of blue light touched the barn, scanning, then slowly turned toward Samuel's porch. Samuel squinted. "Guess they're curious about me." Tarakan placed one clawed hand gently on his shoulder. "I speak for you." A few seconds later, the largest ship opened from below and 3 figures descended slowly in beams of pale light. They looked like Tarakan, tall dragon-like beings covered in metallic scales of silver, bronze, and deep blue. Their movements were graceful, their wings folding and unfolding like silk curtains. When their feet touched the ground, the light vanished. The one in front, taller than Tarakan, with a crest of glowing white scales, stepped forward. His voice carried a soft hum that Samuel could feel in his chest more than he could hear with his ears. "Tarakan," the leader said, his tone full of authority and warmth. "You live." Tarakan bowed deeply. "Commander Varesh, I live because of this one." He turned slightly and gestured toward Samuel. "Human, farmer, helped me, gave food, gave care." Varesh's glowing eyes turned toward Samuel. The commander's gaze was sharp but not unkind. He studied the human for a moment that felt like forever, then slowly lowered his head, a gesture of respect. "You saved a soldier of the Drakari," he said in careful, translated words. "We owe you gratitude." Samuel blinked, his hat still in his hands. "Well, I couldn't just leave him out there hurt, could I? Didn't seem right." Tarakan looked at Varesh proudly. "See? Human heart. Kind." Varesh glanced around at the small farm, the barn, the fields, the old tractor parked nearby. "This is your dwelling?" "Yep," Samuel said with a small smile. "Been in the family for 3 generations." Varesh's tone softened. "Peaceful world, we rarely see such." For a moment, none of them spoke. The air was filled only with the soft hum of the hovering ships and the quiet rustle of the wheat swaying below. Then, from the ship above, more lights appeared. Dozens of smaller figures descended, carrying strange, glowing instruments. They began to scan the ground and the sky, their tails flicking like curious animals. Tarkin explained. "They check. Safety, my crash caused." "Signal burst," Samuel chuckled. "Yeah, I noticed. You burned half my fence when you fell." Tarkin looked embarrassed. "Sorry," Samuel waved it off. "Don't worry. I'll fix it later." The aliens moved with efficiency, setting up small devices that shimmered faintly. Samuel guessed they were some sort of technology far beyond anything humans had. He watched them curiously while Tarakan spoke quietly with Varesh. After a while, Varesh turned to Samuel again. Tarakan says, "You shared food?" Samuel nodded. "I did. Apples and water mostly." Varesh looked thoughtful. "You gave without fear." "Most would run," Samuel shrugged. "Well, I figured if you were in trouble, it wasn't fair to leave you alone. Doesn't matter what you look like, hurt's hurt." For the first time, Varesh smiled. The corners of his metallic lips curved upward, and a faint glow ran across his crest. "Humans, unusual species," Samuel laughed. "You have no idea." Hours passed as the aliens worked. The townsfolk from Green Hollow eventually noticed the strange lights over Samuel's farm. A few cars stopped on the nearby road and people pointed at the sky in awe. Samuel sighed. "Guess I'll have to explain this to everyone later." Tarkan looked concerned. "Humans, afraid?" "Some might be," Samuel admitted. "But they'll come around once they know you mean no harm." The commander seemed to hear their words. "We do not wish to cause alarm. We leave soon." Samuel hesitated. You're taking Tarakan home, right? Varesh nodded. Yes, his return. Important. Samuel looked at Tarakan. Guess this is goodbye, huh? The dragon soldier looked down, his golden eyes soft. Yes, but not forever, Samuel chuckled. You planning to come back to Earth, soldier? Tarakan tilted his head, thinking. Maybe. Like this world, simple, warm, feels alive. Varesh placed a hand on Tarakan's shoulder. You have learned much from this human. That is good. Before they left, Tarakan stepped forward and handed Samuel something small and glowing, an object that looked like a crystal but pulsed faintly with blue light. For you, he said. Gift, Samuel turned it over in his hand. What is it? Memory stone, Tarakan explained. If you touch, you see stars, Samuel smiled gently. Well, I've always wanted to travel, but I guess this'll do. They both laughed softly. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the alien ships prepared to depart. The engines hummed louder, the lights grew brighter, and a warm wind swept across the fields. Tarakan spread his wings, now healed and gleaming. He looked powerful again, but there was sadness in his eyes. You gave me life, Sam, he said quietly. I will not forget. Samuel nodded, his throat tight. Take care of yourself out there, and if you ever come back, I'll keep some apples ready for you. Tarakan smiled. Deal. He turned, walking toward the beam of light. Varesh followed, pausing only to nod once more at Samuel. Your kindness will be remembered among stars. With that, they rose slowly, lifted by the shimmering light, until they vanished into the ship above. The great vessel turned, its hull reflecting the last rays of sunset. Then with a soft hum it rose higher and higher until it disappeared into the sky, leaving only silence and a faint glow that lingered over the farm. That night, Samuel sat on his porch again, the small glowing crystal in his hand. He turned it slowly, watching the soft light pulse like a heartbeat. When he touched it gently, the air above it shimmered, and an image appeared, stars, thousands of them, spinning slowly in a sea of blue and gold. He leaned back in awe. Well, The crystal projected a faint sound, a soft melody like wind moving through glass. And within it a familiar voice spoke. Friend Samuel. I fly among stars. I watch for you, Samuel smiled quietly, his heart full. Take care out there, Tarakan, he whispered. You're always welcome here. Days passed. The news spread fast. People from nearby towns came to see the strange marks in Samuel's fields. Scientists, reporters, and even government officials asked him what happened. But Samuel just smiled and said, just helped someone who needed it. They looked at him strangely, but he didn't explain further. Some stories didn't need to be believed to be true. At night, Samuel often sat outside looking up at the stars. Sometimes he thought he saw a faint light moving differently from the others, a small ship flashing once, like a wave, and he would grin, tipping his hat toward the sky. Months later, one quiet evening, Samuel's old tractor stopped working in the middle of the field. As he tried to fix it, he heard a familiar hum above him. He looked up, and there, hovering silently above the wheat, was a small, sleek craft glowing faint blue. A soft beam of light touched the ground, and a voice came through the air. Samuel Carter. Need help? Samuel's mouth fell open. Tarakan? The dragon soldier's laughter filled the air. Told you. Not forever. The ship lowered gently, and the old farmer smiled wider than he had in years. Well, Samuel said, brushing off his hands. You picked a fine time to visit. Tractors broke again. The alien's golden eyes gleamed with warmth. Then I fix. Friends help friends. And as the sun set over Green Hollow once more, the strange pair, one human farmer and one alien dragon soldier, worked side by side, laughter echoing across the fields. Because in a vast universe full of endless worlds, a simple act of kindness had built a bridge between stars. The sun was setting behind the rolling hills of Nebraska when Eli Carter, a quiet farmer, ended his long day in the fields. The air smelled of warm soil and wheat. His hands were rough, his back ached, and the only sound was the soft rustle of corn in the evening breeze. Life had been simple for Eli since his wife passed away. He worked the land, cared for his animals, and avoided the noisy world beyond his small farm. He liked silence. It kept his heart calm. But that silence was broken one night by something strange. A flash of green light tore across the sky. It wasn't like a plane or a meteor. It was faster, brighter, and it made no sound, only a low hum that vibrated through the ground. Eli frowned, shading his eyes. The light shot toward the nearby woods and disappeared behind the hill. A few seconds later, a faint rumble followed, like thunder from underground. Probably another one of those satellites, he muttered to himself, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling crawling up his neck. But something deep inside told him this was no satellite. As the stars appeared above, Eli grabbed his old flashlight and decided to check it out. Curiosity had always been his weakness. The field was cool beneath his boots. He followed the trail of smoke rising from behind the trees. When he reached the crash site, he froze. Something had indeed fallen from the sky. A large metallic object half buried in the dirt. It looked like a pod of some kind, smooth and silver with glowing blue lines running along its surface. One side was cracked open and faint smoke hissed out. Inside, Eli saw movement. At first, he thought it was an animal, maybe a deer trapped in the wreckage. But when he looked closer, his breath caught. It was a creature. Tall, scaled, and winged, though its wings were folded tight against its back. Its skin shimmered like metal, shades of deep emerald and silver. And though it looked strong, it was clearly injured. A long gash ran across its side, and its breathing was shallow. Eli's first instinct was to run. Every part of his mind screamed, "This is not human." But something about the creature's weak breath and the way it trembled in pain stopped him. It wasn't a monster. It was hurt, just like any being could be. Eli took a careful step closer. "Hey there," he said softly, not sure if it could even understand him. "You're in bad shape, aren't you?" The creature's golden eyes opened slightly. It made a low musical sound, a mixture of a growl and a word. Eli didn't understand, but he heard fear in its tone. He looked back toward his farmhouse. "Well, I can't just leave you here," he muttered, rubbing his neck. "Let's get you patched up, big guy." With a grunt, he fetched his old tractor and a tarp. Somehow he managed to lift the wounded being into the trailer, careful not to touch its wings. The creature was surprisingly light, or maybe his adrenaline made it seem that way. Back at the barn, Eli laid it gently on a bed of hay. He didn't have medical training, but he'd seen enough injuries on the farm to know how to stop bleeding. He cleaned the wound with water and wrapped it with a clean cloth. The alien flinched but didn't fight. "Easy now," Eli murmured, his hands steady. "I'm trying to help." Hours passed. The stars turned overhead. Eli stayed in the barn, keeping the creature company as it slept. Occasionally it made strange sounds, maybe dreams, maybe pain, but it seemed calmer whenever Eli spoke softly. When morning came, the sun filled the barn with golden light. The creature was awake, watching Eli with curious eyes. "You made it," Eli said, smiling a little. "Didn't think I'd be nursing something from another world today." The alien tilted its head. It tried to speak, but ended up coughing softly. Then, to Eli's shock, it repeated something that sounded almost like words. "You help me," Eli blinked. "You can talk?" The alien nodded slowly. "Learn fast." Its voice was deep but gentle, like distant thunder. Eli scratched his head. "Well, I guess we can start with names. I'm Eli." After a long pause, the alien said, "Kareth. That's quite a name. You hungry, Kareth?" Kareth's golden eyes flickered. "Food?" Eli smiled. "I'll take that as a yes." He brought fresh bread, milk, and fruit. Kareth didn't eat much, only a few bites. But when he did, he looked almost surprised by the taste. He muttered something in his language that sounded like gratitude. Over the next hours, they learned to understand each other little by little. Kareth was a soldier, or something close to it, from a faraway world. His ship had been damaged in a storm, forcing him to crash land on Earth. He'd expected hostility, but found kindness instead. Eli, on the other hand, found himself fascinated. The idea that someone from the stars, a real alien, was sitting in his barn eating his bread was unbelievable, yet it felt oddly natural. Kareth was different, yes, but he wasn't cruel or frightening. He was lost, lonely, and trying to survive. That night, as the crickets sang outside, Eli asked, "Your people gonna come looking for you?" Kareth hesitated. "Maybe, but they not trust humans. They think you're kind. Dangerous." Eli chuckled softly. "They might be right about some of us, but not all." Kareth seemed to think about that for a while. Then he said, "You help me." "I not forget," Eli smiled. "Let's just focus on getting you better, all right?" The next day was quiet. Eli worked the fields while Kareth rested. Sometimes the alien would watch from the barn window, his wings shifting slightly as if he missed the sky. By evening, Kareth had gained some strength. He even helped Eli fix a broken fence using tools with surprising skill. They didn't talk much, but there was an understanding between them, a silent friendship built on trust and simple decency. When the sun dipped below the hills again, Eli sat on the porch, sipping coffee. He glanced toward the barn and saw Kareth standing at the doorway looking at the stars. "You must miss home," Eli said quietly. Kareth nodded. "Yes, but tonight, I am not alone." That simple sentence warmed Eli's heart more than he expected. Then, just as he was about to reply, the night sky flashed again, this time brighter and closer than before. Eli stood. "Not again." Kareth's eyes widened. He spread his wings slightly, tension running through his body. "They come." "Who?" Eli asked. Kareth turned toward the horizon. "My people." Moments later, glowing shapes appeared in the sky. Not one, but several ships descending silently toward the fields. They shone with silver-blue light, casting long shadows across the corn. Eli's mouth went dry. "You mean they're here? On my farm?" Kareth looked at him, his golden eyes serious. "They come for me. And for you." The ground shook as the ships hovered above the barn, their light sweeping across the fields. The air filled with a deep hum that made every metal tool rattle. Eli stepped back, heart pounding. He wasn't sure what they wanted, but he knew one thing. Nothing on Earth would ever be the same again.